racing and had become a very popular broadcaster as well. And certainly he will be missed in the sport. Lots going on here at Daytona for the next 10 days. For more on our tribute to Neil Bonnet, let's join Bill Weber in our studios in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Thank you, Ned, and good morning, everyone. It has been a difficult couple of days. We've lost a friend and a colleague. And in a moment, we'll glance into the past to recapture some of the many happy memories Neil Bonnet shared with all of us.
Inside Winston Cup Racing is brought to you by cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft and Miller Genuine Draft Light, taking the country by storm. Goodyear, #1 in tires. And by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car.
Neil Bonnet brought enthusiasm and energy to the racetrack. He said his desire to get to the front and stay there probably cost him more times than he'd like to admit, but he enjoyed it all. Neil's no longer with us, but we will always have fond memories of his smile and his style. Neil Bonnet's cheerful smile and pleasant personality were homespun trademarks of this high-riding member of the Alabama gang. For 20 years, he was a part of the Winston Cup racing community, first as a driver, then a broadcaster, and last year returning to the track in Talladega, the site of his first Winston Cup race. Bonnet celebrated 18 Winston Cup wins beginning in Richmond in 1977. His long relationship with the Wood brothers took Neil to victory lane 9 times, including the World 600 at Charlotte in 1982. The following year, in a Raymock Chevy, he flashed across the finish line 0.8 of a second ahead of Richard Petty for back-to-back wins in the 600. He won twice in '83 and '85, and at Rockingham in '86. 1987 was interrupted by a shattered leg suffered in this crash at Charlotte. But in 1988, Neil was comeback driver of the year. He took Hoosier tires to victory lane for the first time with a win at Richmond. His last victory came 2 weeks later at the North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham.
Well, it's almost too much to think about. I've always liked to take things a week at a time, one race at a time, but my goodness, our bunch is stout right now. Our team's running. We're up there in the points thing. We're going to, if we can maintain this consistency, we'll be a factor all year, I believe.
In 1990, Bonnet sustained severe head injuries in this crash at Darlington. Neil suffered memory loss and underwent long-term physical therapy. When he had this conversation with Randy Pemberton in July of 1990, it appeared his racing career had ended.
I should have had a lot more wins. I probably should have won twice as many races.
The Athletics are going for their 4th straight win. Hi again, everybody, and welcome. I'm Dwayne Kuiper, and it's another great night for baseball. And partner, are you ready for this one?
I sure am, Kite. This is going to be a great matchup.
Tonight's American League game features the Boston Red Sox and the Oakland Athletics. Here's the game's first batter, Johnny Damon.
The opportunity to climb back behind the wheel and compete again in the sport he loved.
And go back through there again, I'd do it.
The following year, in a Raymock Chevy, he flashed across the finish line 0.8 of a second ahead of Richard Petty for back-to-back wins in the 600. He won twice in '83 and '85, and at Rockingham in '86. 1987 was interrupted by a shattered leg suffered in this crash at Charlotte. But in 1988, Neil was comeback driver of the year. He took Hoosier tires to victory lane for the first time with a win at Richmond. His last victory came 2 weeks later at the North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham.
Well, it's almost too much to think about. I've always liked to take things a week at a time, one race at a time, but my goodness, our bunch is stout right now. Our team's running. We're up there in the points thing. We're going to, if we can maintain this consistency, we'll be a factor all year, I believe.
In 1990, Bonnet sustained severe head injuries in this crash at Darlington. Neil suffered memory loss and underwent long-term physical therapy. When he had this conversation with Randy Pemberton in July of 1990, it appeared his racing career had ended.
I should have had a lot more wins. I probably should have won twice as many races as I won, but I'll be the first one to tell you, if they let me regroup and go back through there again, I'd do it the same way. I had fun doing it. I enjoyed it.
Fastball misses upstairs.
My numbers aren't all that great, but I tell you what, nobody had any more fun than I had doing it.
Neil really never left the sport. He moved into broadcasting, winning new fans as a race analyst. And he worked with his 29-year-old son, David, as he attempted to join the Busch Series. Neil patiently massaged his desire to return to racing. Then last year, with doctor approval, he returned to the track after a 3-year absence, qualifying for the Die Hard 500 at Talladega. This year, Neil planned to run a limited schedule. He was excited about the opportunity to climb back behind the wheel and compete again in the sport he loved so much. Neil Bonnet collected 18 Winston Cup wins, 20 poles, and nearly $4 million in career earnings. He leaves behind his wife Susan, his son David, his daughter Kristen, and millions of racing fans and friends who will long remember his soothing smile and southern charm.
I can't tell the people enough, the fans out there, the cards and the letters. I'm not talking about the Neil Bonnet fans. I might put them in one side. But I'm talking about the Darrell Walker, the Cale Yarbas, the Pettys, the Allisons that sent letters that we're a Walker fan, but we sure appreciate the efforts you make. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the fans. You never can pay the fans back enough. They stand on the other side of that fence hanging on, pulling for you. And when you're down, they pull even harder, and I appreciate that.
It has been an emotional 2 days at Daytona, but as we all know, just as it was last summer when we lost Alan Kowicki and Davey Allison, the season must continue, as it will today, when 13 drivers battle in a sprint for cash in the Busch Clash. Randy Pemberton has our pre-race report from the track.
Today's NASCAR news brought to you by Texaco Haviland. Add more life to your car.
Bill, the first official order of business here for Speed Weeks 1994 took place on Thursday morning. It was there at the annual Busch Clash breakfast that 13 drivers drew for starting positions for the 16th running of the Busch Clash, which will begin shortly after 12 here in Daytona. Busch Beer presented each driver with a present and a position for the $300,000 sprint for last year's pole winners. Kenny Schrader, the pole position king in 1993, picked up where he left off. He'll start from the first spot, and wild card entry P.J. Jones drew the outside front row for the Melling Ford team. The next order of business was qualifying for the Daytona 500 by STP. That got underway on Saturday at 2:30. Only the front row was determined through time trials, and time trials, what an exciting event it was. Roy Allen Jr. grabbed the pole position for the Daytona 500, edging out 1993 Winston Cup champion Dale Earnhardt by just that much. Roy Allen Jr. turned a lap of 190+ miles per hour to capture the pole. He also won the pole in the ARCA race. 55 drivers took time. They will determine the starting positions for the Gatorade Twin 125s on Thursday. After Roy Allen's qualifying run here at Daytona, we had a chance to talk to him.
We're still in shock about it, but the team really earned it. During testing down here, the car kept getting faster and faster. The guys back at the shop just keep making more and more horsepower, and we got the car really tuned in good. Worked really well with the crew chief on the car and all the people down here with TriStar Motorsports. So we've had a lot of support, and I think that led a lot to this. And it seems like the first time we were the new team this year, and also Hooters is back in Winston Cup, and we're really proud to be back in it with them. But they really worked hard, and the guys really deserved it.
If you're keeping track of the tire wars, Hoosier wins fight number 1. They were on Roy Allen Jr.'s car when he won the pole position for the 500. Bill, the Busch Clash is always an exciting race, and it plans to be today. Nonetheless, everyone wears heavy hearts down here, thinking and remembering of Neil Bonnet.
Thanks, Randy, a feeling we share with race fans everywhere. Ken Schrader starts on the pole today. He and P.J. Jones make up the front row. Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Bodine are in row 2. And row 3, it's Mark Martin and Jeff Gordon. Harry Gann and Rusty Wallace pair up in row 4. Ernie and Kyle are side by side in row 5. Bill Elliott and Bobby Labonte in row 6. And Brett Bodine starts shotgun on the field. In a moment, we'll join Ned Jarrett at the shop of Busch Series driver Ricky Craven, where we taped on Monday of this past week. Funeral services for Neil Bonnet will be at 2 p.m. Monday in Hueytown, Alabama. We will miss him. We already do. Neil Bonnet was 47.
And a fastball in for a strike.
This pitcher has 3 different pitches that he'll throw in any count.
Just got a piece of that one.
Now we've moved inside where work continues on the car that Ricky Craven will run in the Goodies 300 next week at the Daytona International Speedway. All the attention in the racing world is focused on Daytona this week and next week, but 2 weeks after they leave Daytona, they'll run their first short track race of the year at Richmond, Virginia. Some of the teams got in a little bit of testing before they went to Daytona, and Randy Pemberton was there on a cold day.
On Wednesday, February 2nd, 3 drivers rolled into the Richmond International Raceway to do a few laps of fine-tuning for the Winston Cup Tour taking to the track on March 6th for the 3rd race of the '94 season. Generally, very little media attention is paid to teams preparing for a race that's still about a month away. But this was a first, as former IndyCar champion and Indy 500 winner Danny Sullivan was making his debut in a Winston Cup stock car. The media, they made sure they got the story. It was a chilly 30 degrees with a few light snow showers for Sullivan's first showing, but the weather didn't cloud his perspective, preparing for the most competitive racing in the world. A bunch of firsts for you today. It surprised me. Never on a track this small, first of all, and then in a stock car really for the first time, and to boot it's snowing. Wow, that's something.
Well, the first time I've ever driven on a snow-covered track, but this is the shortest track I've done before this was a mile. And we thought those were pretty short, but this is a beautiful facility. I'm very impressed with it. It doesn't really feel that slow either. I mean, it's or that small. But also the first time in the Winston Cup car for me, so it's pretty impressive. And we're just starting to get going, just starting to get it sorted out. But a lot of fun.
The goals for you first, obviously, are not to go out and set any records, not to go out and run a pole speed, but seat time, obviously, for a Winston Cup guy to go do what you have done in the past, and for you to be able to come and do this, a lot of it has got to be experience and seat time, I would imagine.
Well, that's it. I mean, in fact, I wish everybody wasn't here, including, some Sterling who just went out, and Kyle, because I'd like to learn it all by myself. I'm just out there trying to kind of get a feel for a car, but not trying to go too fast, because then I don't want to get in over my head to start off with. And if I can learn a few things about the track, which is part of it, then learn some stuff about the car. And it was pretty good. I was sliding it off there a little bit a couple times just to kind of get a feel, but not at kind of record-breaking speeds. And my goals, as you mentioned, I think for me are just to qualify for all the races that I attempt to do. That's my biggest goal, and then to finish them. The reality about, people have been asking me in there, well, what about you winning the race? I said, look, I got a lot to learn. That's a long way away. These guys you're not going to come down here and beat them in their own game, in their own backyard right off the bat. We got a lot to learn, and that's a ways away.
For the time being, Sullivan, who hopes to run 5 to 10 races, is receiving coaching from crew chief Jeff Hammond and driver Bobby Hamilton, and cars from Sabco Racing.
The car owner, I really don't even know. I just understand, I think the sponsors are the ones who own the car, and I'm not at liberty at this point in time to really address that situation. But we're just going to try to oversee the project. They're going to lease engines from us, and they're leasing cars from us at the present time. And that's the reason I'm up here. I'd a whole lot rather be in at least snowless Charlotte, working on my Daytona car. But we're up here right today trying to get them started, and I think everything's going to work out really well for them.
If this keeps up, can you guys test on this?
No, we're going to have one heck of a snowball fight here in a little bit.
The snow did subside, and the seriousness of the test became evident. For the Morgan McClure racing team, they were trying to improve on admittedly one of their worst tracks.
This is our weakest track on the circuit, and if we have a major problem qualifying anywhere, it'll probably be right here. So, we felt like we needed to come up here and get this test session in before Daytona, and just see where we're at.
Yeah, it's a new car here, just trying some different chassis stuff on it and just different combinations to see. And you need to find it out because you're really limited on the testing this year, and just try to cover all bases when you do come here.
Qualifying at Richmond will be more important this year than ever before because the track is expecting between 45 and 50 cars vying for 34 starting spots. To the Pontiac Excitement 400 on March 6th, Paul Sawyer will start an extensive construction program that will include 16,000 additional seats, bringing the total capacity of Richmond to 75,000 and making this facility the largest spectator sporting facility in the state of Virginia.
The Richmond race, the first weekend in March, is the first race where they'll have less than 40 cars in the field, and it perhaps will be the first time that we'll see some big names and some big sponsors go home simply because there's just too much competition this year. Stay with us. We'll be back with Ricky Craven right after this.
Quick reaction, let him make the play in that line drive.
This Sunday on Race Day Live from Daytona Beach, we'll kick off NASCAR Speed Weeks with the latest reports on the impending tire battle between Goodyear and Hoosier. Plus, we'll help you figure out who's in what car this year, and the Daytona 500 champion Dale Jarrett will tell you who will win the Busch Clash. Join us for racing's fastest half hour.
Race Day, the latest news from the world of motorsports, brought to you live, 11:30 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. Eastern, only on TNN Motorsports.
That's a 3-pitch strikeout. Hey, get strike one. Just keep a mile away from strikeout. Joe steps into the
Ricky Craven's DuPont crew are loading up the truck and getting ready to head to Daytona for the running of the Goodyear 300 next week at the Daytona International Speedway. Ricky won the Penrose Rookie of the Year Challenge in the Busch Series in 1992, then came back with a strong finish in 1993, finishing second in the point standings. Well, he wants to improve on that a little bit in 1994. Bill Weber talked to him recently about some changes in his team.
Ricky Craven is hard to please. In 1992, he won the Penrose Rookie of the Year award, and last season he finished second in the race for the Busch Series championship. But Craven has yet to accomplish the primary goal of every Busch Series driver, a trip to victory lane.
There are a lot of people out there saying, what is wrong with this guy? Looking at me, I got 3 heads and saying, you know, what's it take to make him happy? And I can appreciate that, but there are also a lot of people out there that understand exactly what I'm saying. And
sometimes you try to make the
when you've won,
that's exactly what you saw right there.
And you go for, well, in my case, 2 years without winning, it's like going hungry, and it's time to get fed. You know, I'm wanting to win real bad, and so that's a little bit of a disappointment. But as I reflect on the entire season, there's no way I can complain.
Up the middle.
And, you know, the fact that we went through some transition, and I made the announcement of doing some different things in '94, and the team really stepped up to the challenge.
What the DuPont driver is doing differently in '94 is calling his own shots from the car and the front office. He has returned to the familiar role of car owner, a role that made him a winner in the Busch North Series.
I think I'm pretty happy in the position. This is what's made me successful, you know, being back in the ownership position, and a lot of headaches and responsibilities that go along with that, but I'm familiar with it.
He's
and
on first with
I
a
kind
base
of lost that the last couple of years and missed it a little bit.
That could really build the momentum in their favor.
Maybe if we talk about this again, I'll change my mind later on, but right now I'm certainly happy.
Outside of winning Rookie of the Year, Craven had a less than colorful freshman season, finishing 14th in points. After winning the Busch North Championship in '91, he came south with a carload of confidence. But 1992 produced just 5 top 10 finishes, and nothing better than 7.
It's kind of interesting. You know, I've evaluated all that, and at the end of '91, I had so much momentum, and I had so many people on my bandwagon, and came down here. I expected to be legitimately finishing the top 10 in points.
He swiped 10 bases.
Things didn't go as well as I had hoped. A lot of people jumped off my bandwagon at the end of '92, and when that happened, I guess the thing got lighter because we went a heck of a lot faster in '93, and you know, now we're back in a position that we're familiar with.
Ricky didn't exactly charge into second place in the 1993 points race. He kind of just showed up at the end when others stumbled down the stretch. Still, he put himself in the proper position to cash in, an experience he hopes to build on beginning in Daytona.
I'm looking forward to the racetracks that we ran well and the challenge to improve on some of the racetracks that we didn't run well or didn't run as well as we should have. It's all becoming easier. It honestly is, because it goes back to what I explained earlier. There's no replacement for experience and maturity, and that's what's happened with Ricky Craven. And I think '94, the biggest test for us is to prepare ourselves as a team and mechanically so that we don't have any letdown early on. in that I know the places that we're capable of running fast, and we're going to run fast.
Ricky is still learning about racing. Of course, most racers always are. He has polished some of the rough edges on and off the track, and now hopes his future is the beneficiary of his past.
Don't want to have to go through what I went through in '92. That was very educating, very important. And honestly, I wouldn't trade it because I learned a lot.
Even at 1.
But
a deep fly ball should be good enough to score that runner on third base.
It happens again, then I didn't pay attention, you know, and obviously didn't run enough because that's really what's important is, did you learn by your mistakes? And I think I did.
Well, it's a big undertaking to serve as car owner and driver in the NASCAR Busch Series, but Ricky Craven has done it before and had a lot of success, and maybe it will result in his first win and maybe his first championship. Stay with us. We'll have the mailbox when we come back.
Next Sunday and Inside Winston Cup Racing, we'll have pre- and post-race reports from the Daytona 500 by STV. Will Earnhardt finally capture this elusive title? Can Dale Jarrett repeat? We'll have the story.
And we'll share our 1994 video race program. Bring a pen and paper as we examine some of the new teams and old faces in new places who will be a part of the new Winston Cup season.
Today's mailbox is brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft.
Our question today is from Debbie McCullen from Westfield, Pennsylvania, who writes, how much air pressure is needed to operate the air wrenches that the tire changers use, and what is the minimum torque required on the wheel lugs? Well, Debbie, for the answer, we'll go to John Wolf, who's the rear tire changer on the Interstate Battery Chevrolets, which are driven by Dale Jarrett.
Thanks for writing in, Debbie. First of all, we run about 190 pounds for our air wrenches. That varies from team to team, but we use 190. And the second part of your question, NASCAR requires the lugs to be torqued at 80 pounds. Thanks for writing in.
If you have any race questions, write to us at Inside Winston Cup Racing, Box 240-417, Charlotte 28224. If we use your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Genuine Draft jacket.
We're excited about the 1994 season, which is already underway, and of course we'll cover it for you here on the Inside Winston Cup Racing.
Ned? Listen, thanks for being here. Sorry I couldn't be out here with you. The owner's looking for a little more experience. Are you interested in the backup role?
Well, I don't know. I don't think I can fill your shoes, but I'll tell you, that color is exactly the color I had when I won the championship back in 1965. We'll talk about that, but right now we got to get out of here and let your guys get ready to go to Daytona. Hey, you join us again here on the Inside Winston Cup Racing on TNN.
Inside Winston Cup Racing has been brought to you by Gold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft and Miller Genuine Draft Light, taking the country by storm. Goodyear, #1 in tires. And by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. Ground transportation for the Inside Winston Cup Racing crew is provided by Mark III Luxury Vans and Trucks, the official vans and trucks of NASCAR. Footwear provided by Simpson Race Products, makers of the Ground Effects line of motorsports footwear. For order information and a new 1994 catalog, call toll-free 1-800-654-RACE. Communications for Inside Winston Cup Racing are provided by Racing Radios, the official communications of NASCAR and the Winston Cup Series. Call for information.
Pretty wild ride, more than that one. If you race long enough, you're going to get into some of that every now and then. But I'll tell you what, if the car runs right, we'll be in good shape down here. The Talladega deal just was a freak thing, and that's not going to happen that often.
Moments later, one of NASCAR's most popular drivers suffers a fatal crash when all turn number 4 at Daytona International Speedway, and the sport once again grieves.
Ortiz takes, and it's high for a ball.
Hello, everybody. I'm Pat Patterson, and much of the excitement and anticipation of NASCAR Speed Weeks 94 here in Daytona Beach is missing because of that tragic crash Friday that took the life of our friend and TNN colleague Neil Bonnet. The show must go on, and more than 60 NASCAR teams are here for the Super Bowl of the sport. We'll have more on Neil a little bit later in the show. Probably the biggest question going into 500-pole qualifying yesterday was how would Hoosier Tire do in its return to Winston Cup competition? Jason Young has our story.
Stepping
in qualifying for the Daytona 500, only the top 2 positions are guaranteed. Everyone else would have to run the twin 125s to get into the Super Bowl of stock car racing. But for the record, here's the top 5. DK Ulrich's brand new U.S. Air team with driver Greg Sachs was the 5th fastest on Hoosiers. 4th fastest was Sterling Marlin on Goodyear's driving the Kodak Chevrolet. The car vacated last year by the 3rd fastest qualifier, Ernie Irvan. Of course, he is now piloting the Texaco Havoline Thunderbird for the Robert Yates team. They also picked the Goodyear brand. The 2nd fastest was 1993 champion Dale Earnhardt with a speed of 190 miles per hour. He too was on Goodyear's. The pole sitter is on the Hoosier Tire and is a rookie. His name is Roy Allen Jr., driving the number 19 Hooters machine for TriStar Motorsports. He turned in a time of 47.32 seconds with a speed of 190.1 miles per hour. The 27-year-old is also on the pole for today's ARCA 200. This is the first time in the track's history that a driver has gotten the number 1 spot for both the ARCA 200 and the Daytona 500. This is also the first time that a rookie has set on the pole for the 500. But one question still remains. How will the Hoosiers hold up during long green flag runs? This is Jason Young reporting for Race Day.
And the pole sitter was as surprised as everybody else.
Well, I guess it really hasn't sunk in yet. I mean, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. But we're just looking forward to next week and looking forward to 125.
And we invite you to join us on the evening version of Race Day as we'll talk with both bosses of Hoosier and Goodyear about the impact of the tire competition. Now, the first real test of this year's Speed Weeks comes in just a few minutes in the annual Busch Clash for last year's pole sitters. Here's the way the starting grid was drawn on Thursday. Ken Schrader is on the pole, and with the wild card drawing winner P.J. Jones alongside in his first and last race in that car this year. More on that a little later in the show. Dale Earnhardt will be on the inside of row number 2, and Jeff Bodine will be on the outside. He's on Hoosier Tires. On the 3rd row, it'll be Mark Martin and Jeff Gordon. On row number 4, it's Harry Gant and Rusty Wallace. And on the 5th row, it'll be Ernie Irvan and Kyle Petty, while Bill Elliott, Bobby Labonte, and Brett Bodine got the short end of the draw. Now, the gentleman sitting to my left, I know wishes he was out there today in whatever position, and that's the reigning 500 champion, Dale Jarrett. The question isn't if you can walk and chew bubble gum, but can you announce and hold an umbrella at the same time? And we're doing pretty good at it so far.
You're doing a heck of a job. Yeah.
Talk about qualifying yesterday. I know you guys were looking for a little better, but there were a lot of people scratching their heads. How did it go for you yesterday?
Well, we're not as fast. You know, last year we came here with a plan for qualifying for the race, and everything worked out perfectly for us. This year, we were still doing a lot of testing on Friday because we weren't as fast as we wanted to be down here in the test. It showed up yesterday in qualifying. We're 24th. Not where we want to be, certainly, but still some time. The car drives awfully good, and that's going to be the key next Sunday is who has the best handling car.
Dale, everybody, as far as Hoosier Goodyear, have you been around it long enough to figure out if there is any advantage one way or the other at this point?
It looks like the Hoosier tire is a little bit faster on the go. Now, what's going to happen after we run 8, 10, 15 laps, I don't think anybody knows. Today's Busch Clash is going to give us an idea, although they only run 10-lap segments there, but we'll still have an idea if they're going to be competitive once we get to drafting.
Roy Allen Jr., that's got to be a great way to start your Winston Cup career for him. How about the Clash today, though? Who do you think who's your favorites out there as far as these guys where they lined up?
I think you've got to look at 2 guys in it. Certainly one that is always a favorite, Dale Earnhardt here to win a Clash or any other race. And Ernie Irvan, he's going to be awfully tough. He knows this racetrack well. He's won the 500. A short race like this, I think those 2 guys probably have the better chance.
Quickly, the weather, there's a little bit of rain coming down. How much is that going to play into the track conditions?
Well, I think you have to be a little bit careful. This place can stay a little bit damp and make sure they get it really dry. But it ought to be a fast racetrack being pulled off some.
Be nice to win this thing 2 years in a row, wouldn't it? This 500 thing that happens next weekend.
Yeah, you know, numbers are on our side with everything. The Cowboys winning 73 and 74, 83 and 84. The only other 2 times it's been won back-to-back. So, yeah, it would be great. And I think we have a legitimate shot at it. I'm really excited about it for our Interstate Batteries team.
Good luck to you. Appreciate you stopping by. I know you'll be heading over to watch the race. Today's Clash is probably the best possible medicine for many aching hearts in the garage because Neil Bonnet was not only an accomplished driver, but he was one of the most popular men the sport has ever known. Here's Tom DeWeese with a look back at Neil.
Some people knew Neil Bonnet as a race car driver, while others knew him as an announcer, but everyone knew him as a friend. On the track, he was one of the most competitive drivers ever to climb behind the wheel of a car. In his 16 years on the Winston Cup Tour, Neil found his way into victory lane 18 times, while at the same time finding his way into the hearts of race fans across the country. As a member of the Alabama gang, the name Neil Bonnet became a part of racing history. When asked once what he saw as his best accomplishment in racing, he replied, being able to drive for the top teams and the people I've associated with. If he associated with some of the biggest names the sport has ever known, driving for his friend Bobby Allison, the Wood brothers, and Junior Johnson. Bonnet's career was filled with success and accomplishment, but it also had its share of pain. In 1990 at Darlington, the Alabama native was in an accident that doctors thought would take him out of the driver's seat forever. But determined to hang on to what he loved so much, he fought back against the odds and rehabilitated himself right back into racing. But during that time, Neil showed he was more than just a driver. He went up into the television booth and shared his knowledge, his experience with the fans, all the time making friends wherever he went. Then last year, he put his microphone down and put the driving gloves back on. He was back where he truly belonged, behind the wheel of a car. But the road back was not an easy one. In his return to Talladega last July, Bonnet was in a terrible crash, and while friends and fans held their breath hoping for the best, he climbed out of the wreckage unscathed. Most men would have walked away, but Neil Bonnet wasn't like most men. He loved to race, and that was what he was going to do. Many questioned why he would return this year on a limited basis, but for him, it never really was a question. He would continue. When asked once what he feared most about racing, he replied, not being competitive. My biggest concern in coming back is getting in the car where it runs up front. If I were concerned with getting hurt, I wouldn't get back in to start with. His determination will be one of only many things that will be missed about Neil Bonnet. He may go down in history as a race car driver, but most of us will remember him as a friend first and a driver second. This is Tom DeLucia reporting for Race Day.
Bonnet's team is withdrawn from all the remaining Speed Week activities. Funeral services for Neil will be at 2 p.m. on Monday at Garywood Assembly of God, Warrior River Road in Hueytown, Alabama. Time permitting at the end of the show, we'll give you that address where memorial donations can be made. Our prayers are with his wife, Susan, and the entire Bonnet family.
Now there's a great example of the defense picking you up. They turned a sweet double play right there.
After 4.5, the Athletics trail by 3.
Welcome back live to Daytona Beach, everybody. Before we get back to the action here, the IMSA Road Race Series has a new owner. This past Monday, Florida businessman and former racer Charlie Slater bought the 23-year-old sanctioning body and has brought in Harold Kelly Jr. to be the president of IMSA. That means that Dan Greenwood is out. Slater told Race Day that there won't be any other immediate changes in IMSA racing on or off the track. The sidebar to that story is that one high-placed source told us that before Slater bought the series, the NASCAR France family had expressed interest. I'll tell you, here in Daytona, there's been a lot of head-scratching going on as everybody's trying to figure out who's in what Winston Cup car this year. Even in the garage area, it's been pretty confusing. So our Stephanie Boyd set out to try to clear things up.
Couple of garage stalls here at Daytona International Speedway feature some of the best teams in Winston Cup racing, and that makes things easy if you're trying to keep up. With the exception of Rusty Wallace switching to Ford, the top 5 or 6 drivers are in the same cars with the same teams and the same sponsors. But after that, things start to get complicated.
Yeah, with all the driver changes, I think the only one you know that's the same is myself in this car, Mark in the 6, and Dale Earnhardt in the 3. You don't know who's in the 28. You don't know who's in the 4. I was out there running this morning. I thought Richard Petty was in the 43 because they changed back from the 44 to the 43. So it's going to be a fun year.
You think you're behind so-and-so, and you're like, no, wait a minute, so-and-so's driving this car. So, you know, that takes a while to get used to. And there's been a lot of that this year, and there's a lot of new teams. So it might take a little bit longer this year.
Dallenbach says when it comes to his own routine, he has no trouble remembering the famous number 43. But it wasn't quite so easy for Hut Strickland during winter testing after a year behind the wheel of the McDonald's machine.
I gotta say, there's probably once or twice through the test, I probably headed over to that truck, and you know, especially when I got hungry.
So just what are some of the biggest changes for 1994? Well, we decided to ask the experts, the fans. Who's in the 12 car, the Bobby Allison car?
Godman.
Check down. Okay, let's try.
I knew that. Okay, Ricky Rudd, his car is different. He's in the 5, but it's Kellogg's.
Who's in the 77 car?
Craig Sachs.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. All right. Jimmy Hensley's the other one. You got it.
Well, which car is Jimmy Hensley in?
No sponsor, 55, right?
What would you say if I told you that Ricky Rudd still had tied with him?
With 4 innings left, the Red Sox.
But isn't that in the Busch Grand Nationals?
Stepping in 1-2.
No!
David Ortiz.
Okay, so Rudd still got tied, but he's now in the 10 car. And his old number 5 goes to Terry Labonte in the Kellogg's machine. In all, about 30 cars have come to Daytona with either a driver, sponsor, or some kind of team change. So since we can't possibly go through all of them here, the key is to do your homework. This is Stephanie Boyd reporting for Race Day.
And at last count, program sales are brisk. There's another change already as P.J. Jones quit the Melling car effective after today's clash. He says he wasn't told about his owner's plans on running 2 cars here. Jones felt that the team was short-staffed and needed to focus on just one entry. Joe Ruttman stepped up in the second car to take Jones's place in qualifying on yesterday. The other big race today is, of course, the Daytona 200 for the ARCA Hooters Cup cars, and Loy Allen Jr. is getting to make a habit of winning poles on the big tracks. North Carolinian earned the top spot on Thursday. He'll be joined on the front row by Tim Fedowa. Bob Hill and Jeff Purvis are on row number 2, and defending series champ Tim Steele will start 23rd. We mentioned that because last year's best ARCA driver stopped by just a few minutes ago. Among other things, I asked him if there was any problem starting that far back.
He comes up a little bit short.
Team-wise and motor-wise, you know, I feel really comfortable. We had problems qualifying, and, you know, we figured out what was wrong with the car. We had something wrong with the carburetor, but, you know, now the car's rocket ship fast. I just hope history don't keep repeating itself down here with a first couple 2-3 lap crash.
And I'm sure everybody else is hoping that as well. Over 70-some cars, I understand, tried to make the field. What are your big concerns going into the race today? Of course, Loy Allen Jr. on the pole for this one. What do you feel like is real important for yourself first few laps?
To stay out of trouble and, you know, try and get up to that lead lap draft or the lead car draft as quick as I can get up there. You know, the quicker we can get up away from where we shouldn't be running and get up with the cars we should be running, I think we'll be a lot better off. You know, I'm going to kind of hold back the first few laps, which every racer will tell you that, but I think about every one of us lie every now and again.
I hate to go back to last year, but you would have won Rookie of the Year, but you ended up winning the championship. Can't have both, so you took the championship. Can you repeat it this year, and is it so important to get a good start here?
Well, last year, you know, we won the championship, but unfortunately, we got caught up in that second lap crash and started 8th here last year.
Good wood on that one at all.
You know, it's important, but as far as last year went, you know, didn't turn out to be that big a factor. We ended up winning the championship by like 350 points, something like that.
I was going to ask you if you've been pinching yourself, wondering if that's really true. Did I actually win the championship?
Yeah, exactly. The way the first 2 races started off, you know, here with a big wreck, and Pensacola, we went there and qualified on the pole, led the most laps, and 15 laps ago, I think there's 2 or 3 cars on the lead lap were leading the race and broke a hub on the right rear of the car, and, you know, all my hopes for the championship about that time was gone, but from there on out, we couldn't do a thing wrong.
And, you know, I always wanted to do the weather on this show. It's raining. Coming up next, the World of Outlaws opened up this past Thursday night. We'll have all the highlights. Stay with us, everybody.
Gathers it in with his glove. They make the play.
Race Day is brought to you in part by Old Milwaukee and Old Milwaukee Light. It doesn't get any better than this.
And welcome back live to Daytona Beach, everybody. Just a little bit of rain coming down, nothing to worry about. The folks continue to file into the Speedway for a full day of action. World of Outlaws, meanwhile, cranked up another season last Thursday night, and among those returning to action was Doug Wolfgang. You recall, Wolfie suffered serious burns in 1992 in a crash, then he had an abortive comeback last summer. Thursday, we asked him if he felt a little out of place after such a long layoff.
Breaking ball is inside.
Feels real strange. That's what's scary for me, because it feels so strange for me right now. I don't know if I'll ever be any good anymore. And I don't know how long to persevere through it and continue to go to the point where I decide, no, I'm not going to be good, because it does feel that strange to me right now. It feels different. I don't know why. I wish it didn't.
And here with the full story on how Wolfgang did in the Outlaws season opener is Mark Allen.
The St. Augustine Speedway appearing on the World of Outlaws schedule for the first time ever. Big three or not, it was an even playing field for the Thursday night season opener. The toughest break of the night, or maybe the best air show, came from Jeff Shepard after getting together with Steve Kinzer. The St. Augustine Speedway was a one-group track, and that worked right into Dave Blaney's hands, who led every lap for the 20-lap preliminary feature win. Sammy Swindell was second, with Danny Smith third, Stevie Smith was fourth, and Greg Hotnet was fifth. Wolfgang was seventh. The next night the track was the same, but the man up front was different. The 45X of Johnny Herrera was the point setter, but an oil line had come loose, dumping hot fluid on his feet. With Herrera distracted, Stevie Smith took the opening and carried it to victory. Herrera still took second, with Danny Lasowski third. Jeff Swindell was fourth, and Andy Hillenberg was fifth. This is Mark Allen reporting for Race Day.
Thanks, Mark. It's great to see Wolfie back. Last Sunday marked the kickoff of a number of racing series, and they were all in one place. Of course, I'm talking about the annual Skull Copper Classic.
It was certainly a big weekend of racing in Phoenix, Arizona, with the Copper Classic ready to roll. The first of 4 major races was a midget race that turned out to be one of the better shows. From the drop of the green, Mike Bliss may have taken the lead, but Paige Jones in the 71 made a great move to the inside to get right behind the leader. But late in the race, it turned into a 3-car battle with a couple of 9 cars trailing the 6. The 3 traded back and forth until Chuck Gurney in the 9F took the lead for good. Second went to Stevie Reeves, followed by Andy Mitchner, Jimmy Seals, and Jim Beckley. The second race featured the Super Modifieds. Davey Hamilton let the rest of the field know he meant business when he went out and qualified 4 miles an hour faster than anyone else. So it was no surprise that the number 1 was out front quickly. But then surprises started popping up. Here the 14 car started to go inside, but Jimmy Seals was already there, and Seals ended up on his side. Then off of the restart, John Heidenreich went for a wild ride and ended up upside down on the track. Accidents like this continued, but they didn't seem to bother Davey Hamilton as he pulled away and left the rest of the field in his rearview mirror. Second went to Jeff Helton, followed by Rebel Jackson Jr., Scott Backman, and Pat Abel. Next up was the Silver Crown Series with Ron Schumann on the pole, but just like the earlier race, watch the move to the inside by number 11 George Ziggy Snyder. Snyder, the first Silver Crown champion, was out front and in the lead. But the veteran wouldn't be able to hold off a determined Kenny Irwin Jr., who took over the top spot and held on to it until the checkers fell. Second went to Snyder, then it was Tony Stewart, Jim Keeker, and Mike Bliss. The final race was the Southwest Tour Series 94 kickoff. Lance Hooper was on the pole and led the field through the first 9 laps, but then he gave it up to a hard-charging Ron Hornaday Jr. Hornaday would hold on to the top spot for the next 30-plus laps until this harmless-looking restart turned ugly when Kirk Rogers lost control of his car. This resulted in a multi-car pileup along the front stretch. After the mess was cleaned up, Hornaday continued to lead until Brett Bell caught him and passed him. From there on, he held on to the top spot for his first Southwest Tour victory. Hornaday finished second, followed by Rick Crawford, John Dillon, and Lance Hooper.
And February always means another annual event we look forward to, and that's the return of the Pocono Track Fact Sweepstakes. Pocono President Joe Mattielli stopped by yesterday to talk about this year's contest.
It's back because the fans love it, and we love doing it. It's an exciting thing where fans have a chance to win cash, tickets to the Pocono, and some lucky fan's going to win an all-express paid trip for 2 to the beautiful Pocono Mountains and one of our Winston Cup events.
All right, the contest itself begins next Sunday on race day, and here's how you can enter. Send your name, address, and phone number to Pocono Track Fact Sweepstakes in care of Pocono Raceway, P.O. Box 500, Long Pond, Pennsylvania, 18334-0500. Next Sunday morning, we'll ask a question about racing at Pocono, and right after the show, if we call you and you know the right answer, you'll win $500 in cash or your choice of 2 tickets to either the June 12th Pocono 500 or the July 17th Miller Genuine Draft 500. The weekly winners will be announced on the evening race day show. And the grand prize, of course, the winner will get among 10 weekly. We'll be drawn from 10 weekly winners and announced in May. And that lucky person will receive all expenses paid trip to Pocono's June 12th Winston Cup race. So enter now. And as we head to break, we'll remind you that tonight on race day, how will this year's tire competition be between Goodyear and Hoosier? Will it be different from 1988? The answer may surprise you. Be sure to join us. More race day right after this.
1 and 2. Set on the ground to the right side. The runner takes him out at second. Score that one.
Race Day is brought to you in part by Old Milwaukee and Old Milwaukee Light. It doesn't get any better than this.
One quick note, a couple three guys will be on Hoosier Tires. Should be a good clash this afternoon. Hope you enjoyed. That's it for now. Be sure to join us at 8:30 Eastern on race day. We'll have highlights from the clash and an interview with the winner. Plus, there's a lot of other racing going on here in Florida, and much of it involves drivers from the Northeast who just got out of that last big blizzard. Until tonight, I'm Pat Patterson. Have a great racing day. We'll see you back here at 8:30.
Transportation provided by Cedar Ridge RV Center of Branchville, New Jersey. Call 1-800-988-4884 and find out why Cedar Ridge is the choice of champion. Communications provided by Racing Electronics, the official communications of Race Day. For a free catalog, call 1-800-272-7111. And by Featherlight Trailers, the official trailer of NASCAR and major sponsor of the NHRA. Remember to call Featherlight for all your trailer needs at 1-800-800-1230.
Race Day Daytona Beach location provided by Pep Boys, America's Automotive Super Center.
Sometimes you try to make the hitter chase your picks. That's exactly what you saw right there.
Fastball misses low for a ball. The count is 2-2.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mike Joy. At this time each Sunday, Neil Bonnet will come into your living room here on the Nashville Network.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Neil Bonnet. You know, there was a legendary stock car racer, the late Bobby Isaacs. He had a favorite saying inscribed on the back of his watch. It said, winners never quit and quitters never win.
For the last 2 years, he's talked to winners, joked with them, traded stories with them, and just generally carried on in a manner that made all of us proud to be associated with him. Friday here at Daytona, those stories stopped. And the fun times became bittersweet memories of someone we respected, loved, and admired. Neil was once again trying to get here to racing's hallowed ground, its victory lane. But Neil Bonnet was doing what he most loved to do, running flat out on one of the nation's fastest super speedways.
If Neil were here, he'd say, listen, tell him about the good times, the great rides, and all the fun.
1-1 count.
So today we'll do just that for this most magnificent win.
Change up inside for a ball.
One of my fondest memories, Neil, is last year when we won the Busch Clash, and Neil was in the victory circle with us at the Busch Clash, and you could see the look in Neil's eye that you knew that Neil was going to drive again, and that's what he was going to do. It's what he wanted to do, and I guess the memory of looking at Neil Bonnet and the look in his eyes standing in the victory circle at Daytona is probably will stick in my mind forever.
I remember running behind him at Michigan one year, and he would drive the wheels off a car, and we used to laugh about it. But I followed him down in turn 3, and his front tires were working like this, just back and forth, back and forth. And we just got on the power steering. And I said, man, what are you doing driving the car that hard? And he said, I'm not driving the car. He said, I don't turn the wheels at all. And I said, man, they're going back and forth like this. And he went out the next practice, and he come in, and he said, you know, I think you're right. He said, I think the front wheels are going back and forth, back and forth. So he had him slow the steering box down. The next thing he did, he went out and run all the way in the corner and run up next to the wall and slap side his car. He come over to me and he said, I like it better when the wheels go back and forth, back and forth.
Well, Neil was always a special guy. I think everybody in this garage area was a friend of his, and he took a lot of time with different people, and my dad was one of them. And I remember in Charlotte, Neil had a little 32 Ford, and I had a 31 Chevrolet, and we were talking about the cars at the Speedway, and my dad said, you know, I like the older cars that are stock. And Neil said, well, I've got a 38 Chevrolet. And my dad said, well, you know, I've always kind of wanted one of those cars. And the next day, the car was delivered to Charlotte, and Neil gave it to my dad. And it was a nice automobile. And, you know, people don't do things like that unless they have a big heart. And he just cared for so many, and so many cared for him.
Well, I just remember that white and black car used to run down at Birmingham, and the mules that he and Red Farmer, Bobby, and those guys used to put on. There's one thing about it, nobody can say that Neil wasn't a hard charger. I mean, he got every bit he could out of a race car.
He won a race at Richmond, and in the old days, you could write and get back home in time to see what the 11 o'clock news had to say. Well, on this particular Sunday night at 11 o'clock, the news announcer was very, very raw, very green, made a lot of mistakes. When he got to the Richmond race, and this is what he said,
He said, today in Richmond, the race was won by the famous French race driver Niles Bonnet. I hit the floor when I heard that. I couldn't wait to get to Neil. So I told a couple of buddies of mine, we went in the garage area at the next race and started yelling, Niles Bonnet, Niles Bonnet. And he looked at us like we were crazy. He said, what are you boys talking about? I said, we told him the Richmond story. Your name is now Niles Bonnet. It got to be crazy. Bobby Allison was calling him Niles Bonnet. We had guys that paging him from up there, the PA system. Niles Bonnet, please report to the NASCAR trailer. It was hilarious. So he decided that for a while there, he'd call himself Niles Bonnet. When anybody called him Neil, he wouldn't answer. For several seasons, Neil had an on-track teammate when he drove for Junior Johnson. Yesterday, the co-executive producer of Winners, Ken Squire, sat down and talked to Darrell Waltrip.
Well, you know, I guess really when you look at Neil, sort of exemplifies what a lot of us in the garage area are all about. Hard-working, family man, talented, could do just about anything, you know. I mean, I've told him a number of times how thrilled I was for him, how proud I was of him to be able to do the show he was doing, to be the host of that show. I never really thought about Neil being a TV star, but he was, and I think that just shows the dedication that he had. This game is brought to you by he raced and he was a star. He went into television and he was a star.
These are the situations.
And I'm sure that he's a star wherever he is today. And I was kidding him Thursday in the hospital. We were having our physical, our annual physical, and I said, Neil, don't you think I ought to do a little cameo, you know, just kind of walk through this, maybe just walk by while you're doing an intro from your den there in Hueytown, just kind of just let people know that I'm still hanging around. And we laughed about that, and he was telling me about being in Pomona, and he said, I told him, somebody asked about that, and he said, I told him I wish he was here now, he could do this show. And we just had a lot of fun. The show we did, kidding, and it was purely and simply kidding each other about, you know, taking the show. Nobody could do the show like Neil did, and it's his show. We were just playing with him, and we had a lot of fun with that, and just so many things come to mind, and just gonna miss him a lot. I mean, you know, you turn on the TV and you're gonna see him for a while. He's gonna be there doing his show, and to know that he's not really there is pretty sad.
Memories of racing with Neil. I mean, he could get the needle out. Didn't matter when it was. Didn't matter where it was. He could always get you one more time.
We were racing Richmond, Virginia. I don't know, it was back the late 70s, early 80s. I don't remember exactly. And he was leading the race late. And caution came out, and he stayed out. I came out driving Junior's car. I think I came in, I got 4 tires, so my car was fast. I caught Neil with about 5 or 6 laps to go, and I couldn't get by him. And so I went down in the first turn there at Richmond, Old Richmond, and just drove in way over my head and body slammed him. I didn't mean to. And got Neil sideways, and he run up and brushed the wall, and I got by and I won the race, and Neil run, I don't know, second or third. And I'm coming down pit lane and all my glory, and I've won, and that's what it's all about. And I got the net down, and I'm waving to the crowd, and about that time I thought my neck was going to break. And I looked in the mirror, and Neil kind of reminded me on pit lane that he didn't really like the way I got by him there at the end of the race. And we had a lot of races like that. We had several like that. And then we were teammates at juniors, you know, and Neil was a great teammate because he never complained. You got a guy like me who complains all the time. You need a teammate that never complains, and he never complained. If his car was fast, he was happy. If it wasn't, big deal. That's just the kind of guy he was. I mean, real non-assuming and easy going. You didn't really want to make him mad if you know what I mean.
And that was one of them.
How do we cope?
Well, as I went to the truck yesterday to call my wife, it was incredibly hard for me to call my wife, and I didn't know what I was going to say to her. And as I was sitting there on the couch thinking about what I was going to tell Stevie, I thought, what if I had to call Susan or Neil's mom and dad? I don't know. These people they're not just people. They're not just acquaintances. They're not somebody that you've seen a time or two. They're people that you love. They're people that you truly, when you see them, you hug them. When you see them, you kiss them. They're truly members of a family. I've known Neil for 25 years. I've known Susan, the kids, Neil's mom and dad. I don't know how you just, all you can do is that very thing, a hug, and you don't understand. I don't like ever go up to someone and say, I know how you feel. I don't know how they feel. I know how I feel, and I'm sorry, and I'm hurt. But I can't imagine what they're going through. And I never have been able to with Davey or with all the guys that we've known and loved so much. I can only know how I feel, and I hurt, and I can't imagine how they feel. All I know is I'm sorry, and I wish there's something I could do to make it all go away and be better. But just pray. Just pray and have faith and know that Neil's death, the Lord has a plan, and maybe someone else will be saved, or maybe millions will be saved because of what happened to Neil. That's the only hope you have.
The always eloquent Darrell Waltrip. Equally eloquent in his silence has been Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt has said, I am not ready to share my feelings with anyone about Neil Bonnet. The safest place for me to be right now is in my race car on that racetrack. But for us who have followed Winners from its inception, we can share some moments with Dale and Neil from that very first episode, and some other moments from Winners.
You better move.
I got the idea.
Oh, I ain't caught that 11-pounder right here.
Who?
Hank?
Ooh, let me get up there and help. See if I can find it. Put it back in?
Yeah. You put it in there to start with.
Ernie said that you put that deal together for him. Y'all rode by, and you lined up all the sponsorship, but Earnhardt was going to pay for it. He says that he never got anything. He's claiming that maybe you got he said he got a few parts, and maybe you got 2,000 and kept it. That's not my contention. If you kept it, we won't air this if I get half of it.
Well, you know,
Junior Johnson's training school was these little winding, twisting, crooked roads through these mountains in rural North Carolina. He was trying to outrun the revenuers hauling moonshine, a race he had to win. If you roll this window down and stick your head out and the wind's blowing just right, you can still smell that good old sour mash in these mountains. Just in case y'all heard a little bit of noise in the background, this right here is the culprit, and you think racing's a handful. There you go, try that for a while.
She's a handful. She's a handful, but she's great.
He's different from most of the Winston Cup drivers. For one thing, he's a northerner. For another, he's got a college diploma. Here's what I get for not reading the questions ahead of time. While you were juniors, here comes the second team rolling in. Guess who? It was me. Yeah. And, you know, there's times, Darrell, that the thing just doesn't work, just like the deal at Nashville. You know, it's on the... Oh, why have I got to ask? I didn't even want to bring this up. But anyway, the two-car team, at times there's always something going to pop up that causes a problem. I mean, the deal at Nashville, you know, I said I won, you said you won, but best I remember, you got the trophy, so you won the race. But it does cause problems having two cars run out the same place like that.
Well, it did. So this guy calls me up, and he says, won't you come be on the show in Nashville? Okay, I'll come do it. You know, that's my one appearance. I'm going to get it out of the way. I'm going to be over with. Then you just send me my check. Rake in the money. Rake in the money. We're going to make millions. We're going to make more than Slim Whitman made off his TV album. I'm telling you, we're going to make a bunch of money. So I leave there and get on a plane and fly to California because we're racing at Riverside at that point in time. So I get off the plane out there, and I'm talking to some fans and stuff, and they said, hey, man, we saw you in Nashville. Saw you on Nashville Now. And I said, really? I said, were y'all just in Nashville on vacation or something? And they said, no. I said, well, how'd you see it? Oh, we get it on TV out here. And I said, what do you mean you get it on TV? And they said, you've never seen Ralph Emery? And I said, no, I don't know who Ralph Emery is.
You just leave it in Nashville.
Hey, I thought it was like a Nashville program. You know what I mean? And like 500, 1 million people in Nashville is going to see it, but the rest of the country's not going to know how bad a singer I am.
Neil Bonnet was a great host of Winners. He was equally great as a TV analyst, as your sidekick in the booth. He had an innate sense about what people needed to know, and he could communicate it so not just race fans, but so everyone could enjoy it. He was a tremendous ambassador for the sport. For my nickel, he was the best analyst in the history of the game.
They're averaging 150 miles an hour around this place now. That's between 165 and 170 miles an hour going in turn one right here. Very tough. It's like slot cars around this racetrack. There's 2 one-mile tracks on the circuit, Rockingham and Dover. This place is 2 seconds faster. Drivers are going to have to stay on top of the race cars or they're going to be in a lot of trouble. The monster just got meaner.
He knew what it was like to go out and run, you know, and lead a race and have a shot at winning a race and lose a race in the last 2 or 3 laps, or to go out and wreck early, or to go out and break a motor and have your hopes be dashed real quick. And he understood that, and you could tell by the questions that he asked the drivers, or when he was in the booth, a commentator would say something and Neil would say, well, maybe the driver's thinking this, or maybe this happened, or maybe that happened. You know, I think he gave the fan a totally different perspective because he had been there before.
He'd spun, he got the car straightened out, and his left rear tire was flat, and this is the leaders coming. He's wanting to beat them back to the line and not go a lap down. Look, he almost pins Ward Burton on the wall. He's trying so hard to get back on that flat tire, he just turned it right around in front of the field.
He brought a new energy to our whole racing group. It was like that put an IV in your arm. He just gave us new energy, new excitement.
He's coming down the corner. You see the nose of the car. It gets down under him right there. Payne's coming back down the inside line. It's just a simple case of both guys are trying for the same piece of racetrack. Payne didn't know he was there, and I think Green thought he might give him a little more room there, and they got hung up coming in the corner.
I think he had an uncanny ability to understand. He was fair with everybody, but he told the truth about what he's seen, and I think that's what made him so good.
Look at the car getting loose right down. He's drove down the bottom of the track. That inside line, though, should be the preferred way around this place.
He was a very fierce competitor, but he loved what he was doing. And I've really come to respect him as a broadcaster. I think that he was destined to be the best auto racing analyst in all of motorsports.
Fuel's not going to be the question. It's going to be tire wear today.
He really had a gift for broadcasting and for bringing the race home to you. And he developed that in a career that saw some of the most spectacular victories and some of the most horrific crashes of any driver ever.
February 1983, last lap of the Busch Clash, Bonnet muscles past Darrell Waltrip.